And it's creating systems that get results so that it's not talent dependent.
Yes.
Because if you had to go hire master burger chefs every single time, you wouldn't have 38,000 locations around the world.
Yep,
and you certainly wouldn't have a business that's easy to sell.
Yeah.
Someday the goal for most people in business is to exit the business.
Yep.
And to exit the business, you have to be able to hand the keys to somebody and show them how to run that business.
Yeah. So I got Josh here. This is Nate Hall. And Josh with Sunbase, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, and Sunbase is software. I know very little about it, and honestly, it was on my list of softwares to even examine, so this gets to be like a real experience where I get to learn about it. I've talked to some of your customers who are like, oh, you really need to look at Sunbase. It sounds like you are in the same space as Sales Rabbit, other companies that are doing CRM, proposals, that sort of software. Is it specifically just for the solar space, or do you guys service other industries as well?
Yeah, so I'll kind of start for a second. So what we saw that there was a gap in the market in the space of where a lot of people are piecing together 5, 6, 7 different pieces of software and what we kind of have labeled as Frankenstitching their operation together. We've gone and actually built one all-encompassing software that has all these single function programs functionality in that platform, but it's all seamlessly integrated because it was built with the intent of natively interacting with each of the various modules. It allows for them to save a lot of money on subscription costs because they're not paying for all these different programs. They're able to pay for one platform. But more importantly, it's a more seamless integration because it gives them the ability to not have fragmented data, to not need to train their team on all these different platforms, and all of this is built with the idea of working, interconnected.
I love that. So how long ago was that you saw that need and you started down that path?
So in 2014, my brother is the actual original founder of the platform. He was working as a software architect for Bank of New York, and he was at a birthday party. He started talking to a contractor there, one of the dads, and he's like, I'm trying to piece together all these different programs, and none of it's really easy. And back then, like APIs and Zapier weren't really a big thing. And he started looking at it, and he's like, I can build a basic CRM. I can build a database. And he just started building the database. And it evolved.
From a conversation at a birthday party, he's just like, you know what? I'm going to solve this. Like, at that point, was it in his mind that he was going to turn this into an actual business?
No, not at all. I mean, he was like, he's a tinkerer. He's always been one of those guys who likes projects, side projects. And I think he thought maybe I can pick up a few clients. I had actually gone to school for business management with an entrepreneurship track. And I looked at it and I said, wait a second, this is a good opportunity.
You actually have something here.
Digital delivery, reoccurring revenue. I'm like, this is a great business. And, at the time I was doing real estate investing. And I saw the opportunity. I built enough passive income to step away from working as a full-time real estate agent and start building up our book of business.
You had the opportunity, you had the time. You're like, hey, might as well give this a go and see what comes of it. And that was like 2014, kind of the birth of it when it started.
It started very organically growing. We started very local in Orlando. It was something that we were going and picking up clients. Somebody would use it at one company, they would leave that company, go to another company.
And
you got to check out Sunbase. Sunbase is great. And we just slowly started picking up clients that way. Truthfully, we never really even did, a lot of marketing. It was very organic
just
in the
word
growth.
Of mouth. Somebody who has used your product, they're going to be talking to their friend business owner, or like you said, going to a new company and then bringing it on. They're like, oh no, I know a better way. What we used over here was this, bringing it over.
Yeah, and the whole concept of it is moving to a tech-driven operation, right? Like when you look at the most successful businesses, in our current landscape, it's like you have Amazon. Amazon is Walmart just without all the people, right? They've done such a good job at building a 2.0, and that 2.0 allows for them to have better margins. It allows for them to have a lot better ability to scale. And while we know that people are a vital part of a business's operation, the idea of it is to leverage people and human resources where necessary, but to bring tech in everywhere that you can possibly. Because what tech does is it allows for you to have a more consistent operation, allows for you to save a lot of payroll costs that ultimately crush businesses, right? Like if you have a company that's taken the old school approach throwing another body at it.
I mean, and sometimes these bodies are literally just used to take data from one of your systems and input it into the other,
Yes.
right? Like the biggest waste of time and money and human resources that is for that simple thing. Whereas like if your platform and everything works seamlessly together, like you are eliminating the need for already a pretty worthless employee anyway, but one that you still had to have and pay for because you needed it.
And, Sunbase never goes and wastes time surfing Facebook. It's never looking at its phone. It's never, calling in sick.
Yeah.
It's never asking for a raise.
Yeah.
It's, consistently delivering once it's in place.
Yeah.
And it's a leveraged activity. We'll put workflow automations in place that will sit there for years and years and years, giving an ROI on that 15 minutes that it took to set up this workflow.
It's so like you take that time in the very beginning, set it up the right way,
Right.
it's going to pay massive dividends. I do know, and I've seen this happen with, some of the larger tech companies out there where it's like that implementation phase is so overwhelming, like that it takes, incredibly intelligent people, lots of time to build it out the right way, just to set it up for your company.
Yeah.
Like a Salesforce, right? Where it's like,
Absolutely.
I've got to build this now to work for my company. It's cool that it can do anything, but I don't know what to do to make it do the simplest thing in my company. I have heard good things about Sunbase as far as being able to kind of just like plug and play, even out of the box, mostly ready to go. Of course, there's small tweakings for your company, but it's like, it's ready to roll is what I've heard.
And there's like anything. I mean, it can be as complex as you make it. What we like doing is taking an incremental approach to it.
Yeah.
And I always make sure that people coming on board understand that like this is not an event. This is not like an easy button where we have a magic wand that we can have you up and running overnight.
Yeah.
It's a journey. But the idea is can we get a 1.0 standing? Once we get a 1.0 standing, can we build a 1.1 and eventually a 5.0?
Okay.
And what we've done is over the years, like in the beginning, we're like, oh, we have all these features. You tell us what you want.
Yeah.
And we realized that was a little bit of a mistake because like they didn't necessarily always know exactly what the technology can do.
Yeah.
Nor did they know exactly what they wanted.
Yep.
And we would get, in this endless loop where we're chasing around trying to like move this or hit this moving target.
Yeah.
So what we did was we actually took a lot of our knowledge that we've built through working with hundreds, if not thousands of implementations and turned around and built a foundational framework, a foundational template. Then when a company comes on, we could say, hey, look, like let's not reinvent the wheel. You do retail solar, perfect. You do retail roofing, you do insurance work, whatever it is, and we can get them up and running a lot
We've
faster.
got the framework for that right here.
Right.
At least now you can hit the ground running versus spending the next 3 months even getting operational, where you can turn off your other tools.
And a lot of these companies don't even have like these campaigns in place. So when they come on, we're like, hey, here's campaigns that you could just implement quickly. Just tell us like, oh, you use this verbiage or this doesn't fit your brand voice.
Yeah.
Just tweak the template.
Yeah.
The workflow automation is literally connecting this line and getting it up and running.
Yeah.
And I think that's very helpful for a lot of these companies. And like, what we find is like, even a solar company and a roofing company or a construction management company or a fencing company, whatever type of company it is, they all have very similar challenges. It's just slightly different. And you don't need to reinvent the wheel every single time. A lot of the same things are needed along the way, right? Like, so we break it down, like on the sales side, we think like lead to appointment, right? Appointment to sale. And then sale to handoff through into the production operation. And if we can build the right things at each of these different points, we're going to help them, move their operation to be much more effective and efficient, overnight. So,
Well, and it even just like organizes your employees to get them working in the right pages and the right things, right? Like a lot of times I see companies make the mistake as they continue to grow, like they continue to add to their CRMs and everything, and it just becomes this monster. And that ability to just simplify it down to where it's like, okay, I have this one employee who just does permits. They don't need to see the whole thing. What they need to see is this part of it to do their job effectively, to work out of this queue. And I feel like that's a mistake. As far as your software, what's one of the things that you feel you guys do better than any of your competitors? Like why Sunbase versus, I don't even know, anyone else that's in that space? There's so many CRMs and proposal tools and different things, but
absolutely.
What do you guys do well?
So I think the idea that all of it actually exist in one platform, like lots of these companies are preaching, oh, we're all in one software, and they really,
and then when you actually look at it,
it's not, right? It's like, going through the sales process, proposal, design, like contract signing, like That's front of house.
Yeah.
When you get into the back of house, like now we're talking about like how are you actually managing the operation?
Yep.
Do you have framework in place that can support standard operating procedures, handoffs that are done a certain way that trigger the different workflows? And we've done that. Beyond that, what we've done is we've brought it even into the recruiting side, the HR side. So there's like a full applicant tracking system within the platform where people can actually go and they can build out their entire onboarding process. They can have their new team members sign all their paperwork. As they sign their paperwork, they transition into an employee status. Through that, you can add them into an LMS. So there's a full learning management system in there. And it just helps bring all these pieces together. I mean, we've even done commission model. So it's like one of the things that we saw as a very painful point for a lot of C-level people at companies is commissions.
Absolutely.
And we would find that you got these people that are running $1 million organizations that are spending 2 days a week literally calculating commissions. And then you have reps gathering outside their door like, hey, where's my check? We're like, this doesn't make sense. So we went in and we built that. But, to answer your question, is like, what's one thing that we do better than everybody? I think it's like bringing it all together. And I think that's where it's like, even these companies that, and again, there's amazing people in the industry. I won't say anything negative against any other company because like each one of them are probably our superior in some area.
For sure.
But like, I would say that like, when we survey the landscape, we've yet to find somebody that is as robust in the full feature set that we're offering.
That truly is impressive. Like even when you just started mentioning LMS, which in so many companies, there or any HR software, like these are all things that are separate that we have to spend time and money to come up with a way to make it communicate with every other tool inside of our business, and having that all in one place, like that is massive. That is so valuable. Saves companies so much time and money. So that already alone, just your product offering, that's better than everyone I've seen,
And we love it. I mean, we love the industry. We believe that, solar is extremely important. Obviously, like, each niche has its challenges. I think solar has had a rough last probably 24 months. But with that being said, I don't think it's going anywhere. I think if anything, it gets stronger through the, figuring this part out.
I agree.
It's part of the maturity of an industry. We look at roofing, and roofing's very different than solar in the regards of like, solar tends to be a nice to have. And roofing is a need to have, right?
You can't really survive without that.
You got a hole in your roof, you're getting it fixed as soon as possible because it's causing
you're sacrificing your Netflix subscription or whatever you've got to do to make that happen for sure. That's interesting. Whereas, you're right. Solar's more of a luxury product. It can save customers money. It can add value. It can do those great things. But at the end of the day, like, they're not, they need the roof more. So that makes sense.
And I think that, some of the most sophisticated organizations that we're seeing are leveraging all opportunities with that relationship with that client. Right? So it's like once you establish a relationship with a client, you've done the heavy lifting part. So it's like now, how do you serve them at the highest level? And to serve them at the highest level, like maybe it is like you sold them solar, but then you realize they need a roof. Or maybe they're getting a roof and you want to present them with the opportunity to add on solar into this because this is really the right thing for them. So I think serving their client well and building trust in that relationship allows for them to build a lifetime relationship with that client and sell them lots of different products if it's the right thing for that client.
Well, and even getting into the logistics of that, because I have worked in massive solar companies that then we add on a new revenue stream. And this, we'll use the example of batteries, right? Now I'm going to sell batteries to this customer. Well, batteries don't follow the exact same flow that we have built out in our CRM already to track that customer through the different stages. And so we're needing to build a new flow. And oftentimes looking outside of our existing software to find something that's going to be a solution for our problem. And whereas like it sounds like Sunbase is really that all-in-one.
In 5 minutes, we will literally have a new job board for you with a completely different workflow. And it's like, it's literally a framework that if somebody's tech familiar, if they're tech savvy, they can run with themselves. If not, the way that we've designed our entire onboarding process is that like we don't want you to have to learn how to build a car, drive a car, and maintain a car.
Thank goodness.
Our team is excellent at building cars. We've been doing this for a long time. We know our tech stack extremely well. Let us help you build the car really fast and get it up and running. Teach you how to drive the car, and then if you're up for it, we'll show you how to maintain the car. If not, bring it in the shop. We're happy to be your resident mechanic.
So that's even a service that you guys offer where I don't have to become an expert at building inside of your software. If I called you up and said, hey, I need this new flow to happen like this, you can make that happen.
We get it all the time. People will submit a support ticket. Hey, this is what we're looking for. We want a new funding board. We want a new permit board.
Yeah.
We have this new product line that we offered, and we can, attack it. We can get it all set up in your system pretty easy.
Yeah.
Then we generally will do onboarding sessions, or not onboarding. We'll do additional training sessions with people.
Yeah.
Where it's like, all right, let us get you on, show you how to use the system. Let's record it.
Yeah.
Let's throw it into the LMS. So now you have it as a training asset. So the next 10 people that you hire in this space know how to do it.
Now see how to do that exact same flow.
Exactly.
Here's the SOP. Watch the video. You've got your training done.
Exactly.
That's amazing. Yeah. Just the fact that that's all integrated. So many companies don't even think about that training side of things, and they're like, well, no, my guy knows how to do that. And you're like, cool. Now what happens when you 10x what you're doing? How does everybody else learn that process?
And you don't want it to be fireside chat, right?
Yeah.
Like if it's fireside chat, like down the line, right? We've all played telephone. We know how that it keeps getting watered down and diluted, and now the quality control standards disappear, and you're not getting that consistent output that you want.
Yeah.
Like our goal, as much as I hate the hamburgers, is to build McDonald's.
Yeah.
Where you can take a 16-year-old who's low skilled
and
have them get a consistent output on the back end, even though they can't keep their room clean and their bed made.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like it's a great book. Have you ever heard the book E-Myth?
Yes. Yep.
Like
E-Myth Revisited as well. Yeah.
Amazing book.
Make it as simple as possible, that it can be repeatable, and you can pay the lowest level employee to do that process. Yeah.
And it's creating systems that get results so that it's not talent dependent.
Yes.
Because if you had to go hire master burger chefs every single time, you wouldn't have 38,000 locations around the world.
Yep, 100%.
And you certainly wouldn't have a business that's easy to sell.
Yeah.
Someday the goal for most people in business is to exit the business.
Yep.
And to exit the business, you have to be able to hand the keys to somebody and show them how to run that business.
Yeah. Yep.
And if you don't have it documented and it's all like here, well, the value
you don't
of your
really
business,
have value.
It goes down tremendously.
Yeah, you are the asset, not the business at that point. So, starting in 2014, we are now in your 11th year. What changes have you seen? We'll start with that question, then there's other follow-ups on that. But what changes have you seen in even the idea of what you were building from the very beginning to now the product that you have?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we've seen tech evolve, right?
Yeah.
Like you've seen a lot of new opportunities come from, new technologies that are emerging, right? Like, APIs, like I said, in 2014 weren't a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a commonplace for most softwares that you have APIs, so it's easy to connect with lots of different data sources.
Yeah.
It's easy to connect with lots of different providers that are doing unique, niche, specialized technology.
Yeah.
In terms of bots, bots have been something that we've been doing quite a bit with training these various bots on different elements so that you don't, again, have to have necessarily an HR manager who's there answering all the questions.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I've uploaded all of the documentation for, our company's policies, our leave policies, all these things into this bot.
Yeah. So I can ask it a question and it can respond versus somebody live having to take that.
Right.
Yeah.
Even product knowledge, right? Like you think about sales reps, how valuable is product knowledge?
Well, it's massive,
Right, so if I can train these bots on some of these things, and we have it inside our client portal, where the client can go in there and be like, well, how do I reconnect my inverter if I change my internet? It's saving phone calls that are coming into the office, but more importantly, it's giving the client direct information so that they don't have to reach out to somebody. They don't want to reach out to somebody. They want to have the answer.
Yeah.
They're reaching out to somebody because it's a necessary evil.
Yep.
And it's clogging and bogging down your system because you're having to pick it up and field these types of things.
So just making that information accessible for whoever needs that information to solve the problem. And oftentimes it's the client themselves, like the homeowner, the end user. That's pretty impressive. So if I understand that correctly, that is something that you have in Sunbase. Like if I'm a homeowner, let's say I got solar, do I have a login to see some of my information?
There's a full client portal that they can log into, and we actually use the client portal so that you can actually give them a better experience throughout the client project management process.
Yeah.
Because they can see every step of where they're at along the way.
Yeah.
And it helps them be more informed. Just kind of talking about how the industry's evolved. Obviously,
and the product.
The product. I mean, you've seen in the door-to-door space, this room's become a lot more crowded.
Yeah.
There's a lot more door-to-door applications.
Yep.
I think it's great because each one of us are pushing each other to constantly, raise the bar and move the needle and really kind of figure out like what's going to be that next thing that helps, the rep, helps the client, helps the end user, the homeowner, the benefit.
It's the whole experience for everybody. Like obviously, even if the homeowner's having a better experience, like obviously the business owner's happier, their business is doing better. So like any aspect of that you get to improve, raises that bar for everything. So
exactly.
That's pretty cool.
So we've had a great time with it. Like we love being innovative. We think that it's fun looking at things and trying to figure out like how do we make them better. For us, a lot of it is like bringing more and more of the operation into the the app. Right, like I envision the rep never needing to log in on a desktop. Like how do we get to that point? Where it's like everything that they need to do is right there. I think a big one for us is like how does a back office communicate back to the rep so that when that homeowner does reach out to them and has a question about what's going on in their project, they're not like I don't know. Let me try to reach out to this EPC or let me call my subcontractor to see what's going on. They know because they have access to it. It's right there in the system.
That's crazy. At one of the solar companies that I worked at, the customer service team reported up to me, and that was something that was fascinating to find out that the majority of the phone calls that we received in the company from a customer that wasn't finished with their project, they hadn't had PTO, they hadn't got the whole solar system turned on already. Literally, those phone calls were just, where am I at? Like, what's going on? Give me an update, right? And so if that customer has that ability to log in, get that own information, see, okay, my permit was submitted for on this date, it looks like my next step is this, like that eliminates so many of those phone calls that I am paying a customer service team real dollars to take these calls, sit in these seats, handle that call volume, make sure we're not missing calls. And it's a simple thing that tech can come in and solve that problem.
Absolutely, and it also prevents losing credibility, right? Like if I reach out to the person that sold me this and they have no idea what's going on with my project, I'm like, what's going on?
This is something that like so many companies need to understand and do better, and the ones that really thrive are the ones that understand that customer experience is everything. Like that leads to massive revenue versus so many just view it as an expense. They're like, well, this is just a necessary evil. It's not. It's an opportunity to create this experience that literally will just make you better than every competitor
fans,
out
walking
there,
billboards, people that will go out of their way to refer you. And one of the things that we've built into that client portal, of course, is a referral capture tool.
Oh, cool.
So you literally can go and you can have them submit their referrals. They could track their referrals to see if their referrals converted, so that if you're offering monetary compensation as a result of them referring you, they can see if they're eligible for payout. We've built digital business cards into it so that you can go and you can have your promotional material right there. They can submit referrals that go directly to you. They can book appointments,
all of these things that you have mentioned, these are 10 different pieces of software, companies, portals, logins that the standard company is using. We're talking about outreach to customer. We're talking like a way to communicate with the customer, a way to have the customer go in and receive their own information. Obviously, just the project management side of it. Like these are all. Most companies are using a different software for each piece of this, and for that, the HR and then the learning management, like all of that being housed in one place, like that is massive. That's incredibly valuable. It blows my mind that everybody's not doing that. It seems so obvious, right?
So here's the secret, right? The secret is that the largest organizations, right, like the Sunruns, and even though they haven't done great this year because it's been a rough year for some of these big organizations. But these largest organizations have been doing this for a decade. They go and they invest millions of dollars into technology because they understand that tech stack, being the engine, the brain for their entire operation, has great ROI. Where small and mid-sized companies haven't had access to that same caliber, same level tech, they've had to kind of piece all these different things together. And that's been, very challenging for them when competing against a company like, a Sunrun that has a full platform. That literally everything is built with the idea of working together and it's all tech-driven first. So our goal is to level the playing field.
If there was like one trigger that would identify a key customer for you, like where you're like, this is my customer, or one question that you would ask them to know that they're your customer, like what is that? Because oftentimes there's all these great solutions out there, and I believe that so many of these business owners don't even know that they need your product? Like, what's that one thing that you're like, okay, you definitely need me, that you would say that to them about?
Yeah, I would say, like, you know, on our side, we haven't done enough to really go out there and scream Sunbase from the rooftop.
Yeah.
You know, and oftentimes when we come across people, they're like, how have I not, like, seen or heard about this?
Right,
like,
yeah.
I would have been using this a long time ago. But really, like, our best clients are people that are passionate, that are in it for the right reasons, but more importantly, have a growth mindset.
Okay.
Right? They're not looking at this thinking like, oh, like, I know everything I need to know and I can do it all and everything else. Like, they come into this understanding that, like, the world really starts in what you don't know that you don't know. And if you can get to that point where you're looking at it saying, like, I'm ready to go to the next level. I want to run a tech-driven operation. I want to run a data-driven operation. Like, for us, like, we're extremely passionate about it. I don't work 9 to 5. I don't work, 5 days a week. We're literally at this 7 days a week.
Nonstop.
We love what we do. Like, my brother is, the main developer.
Is he still involved?
He's still involved.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we literally are at family dinners off in the corner, like, oh, what about this?
Talking
Do you see this
work.
Developer? Yeah, I mean,
the rest of the family's like, guys, stop it, please, no more. Yeah.
I have a 7-year-old who tells me he's going to grow up and run Sunbase.
Yeah, it's already has his future planned out.
Like, for me, I just, like, we love it. We think it's a fun space. Like, I get to be extremely, like, creative. Which is something I enjoy a ton. And we have brilliant developers that go and execute on this stuff. And it's like, our goal is to take end user feedback. Like, we want the people that are going to help us move the platform forward through, like, you helping us understand, like, what do we need to do to serve you at a higher level?
And hearing that customer feedback, and you guys build it, you make it happen.
And they know more about what we need to build than we do, right? Like, we're trying, but I've never held a solar panel in my hand with the exception of, like,
this is a panel.
Yeah, this is a panel. Or, there's people out here doing it every single day. And, they know what they need, and we want to help them build it. So.
That's cool. So, obviously, you can't talk about software and tech in today's, environment without talking AI. What do you see as far as AI on top of CRMs and everything else? Like, how can AI come in and help us all be more efficient with these data systems that you guys build? And is that already in the works? Are you already working on stuff, or is it already implemented?
Yeah, I mean, I think when people are referring to AI, and AI, of course, has become a huge buzzword. Right. Everybody's like AI, which it's great. But what they're really talking about is they're talking about, like, machine learning. They're really talking about also workflow automation. Right. Like, how do we build something one time that the automation's doing a lot of this stuff? So it's like, the early stage AI, as people
is just an automation of a workflow that you've already built out.
Right. I think that what we're starting to see is moving in the direction of generative AI, where AI is training AI, and it's getting a lot smarter, faster, because it's not waiting on you and me to train
on
it.
The inputs and
and we're doing a lot there, specifically in like the solar and roofing space, where it's getting smarter and smarter at detecting the roofs, at knowing how many panels and capacity can be on there. Also understanding what makes for successful sales. Maybe it's certain keyword density. Right? Like, how many times do you use a person's name?
Right.
How many times did you, refer to X, Y, and Z? And I think that we're going to get smarter and smarter in that space.
That's cool.
But,
that's cool.
We're definitely excited about it.
Any other, like, new kind of products or things that you can tease us on that you guys are working on that might be coming out right now or this year?
I would have to kind of hold back a little bit just to kind of keep the powder dry. And, we made some mistakes a year or two ago, kind of starting to talk about gamification in canvassing, and all of a sudden gamification was everywhere.
A thing and everybody's doing it.
Where we'd rather, surprise everybody a little bit with what's to come.
Love that. We'll keep our eyes out for that. That's crazy, though. Yeah, like, from canvassing and gamification, handling commissions, like, these are all different aspects that are different softwares, different things, like, and they're all, separating them out like that. That's got to be way more expensive, I would imagine, right? Like, if I were to become a Sunbase client, am I saving money typically if I'm using 10 different platforms?
You're saving a lot of money. I generally, like, I will tell you, like, our price per user for our entire platform. If you look around this room, it's probably less than what some people are paying for just one of those features, maybe even just a canvassing solution. That being said, it's like, if somebody's using 2 or 3 things on our platform, they're saving quite a bit of money. If they come in and they grow into using everything on our platform, they're going to do circles around the competition because they're essentially showing up at a bike race with a motorcycle.
Yeah.
You know?
And just having an easier, better experience anyway.
That's what we want.
I love that. So just now going to the early days of the company, kind of more of that entrepreneur mindset, you know, you're finishing out your real estate, doing other things. When did you make the decision that, like, this is what I'm doing 100% of my time now, I'm dedicating everything to this? Like, what did that journey look like? When did you make that decision? Was it scary? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, you know, so it's interesting. I mean, I had like grown a pretty successful real estate sales career.
Yeah.
I had also got into real estate investing early on. I started buying houses, which was great.
Yeah.
But in 2016, you know, I had my best year ever in real estate. I made a ton of money, and I like sold more homes than I had ever sold. And I was looking around, and I started realizing that like adding another $100,000 or $200,000 to my income each year wasn't really moving the satisfaction needle. And I started like evaluating other currencies in life.
Yeah.
You know, I looked at it and said like, all right, like what are the things beyond just money? Because like at a certain point, it's not money. It turns into time.
Yep.
You know, then it starts turning into like choice and passion and what do you like doing?
Yeah.
And I realized that I kind of like lost that passion that I had when I started my real estate career.
Yeah.
And it was no longer something that like made me like want to like pop out of bed and go get it.
Yeah.
And you know, it was something I looked at it, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's a great career.
Yeah.
But I felt like it wasn't a unique contribution of my talent and like how I wanted to show up.
Yeah.
And I thought about it, I said, if I turned and sold, you know, 10,000 homes or 50,000 homes, you know, over the course of my career, was I going to feel satisfied as like, that's
what
my
impact
legacy
did I make? Yeah.
And I just thought, I said, you know what, I could do better, and I could show up in a different way where I get to have like a more creative, you know, impact. And you know, you don't know what the journey's going to be like until you start down the path.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's all in your imagination what you think it's going to be like.
Yeah.
You know, of course, I like underestimated how hard it was going to be.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, we're going to go sign up 50 accounts in
Easy.
like 60 days. Like this thing's going to blow up.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and then you start doing it, and you're like, oh,
like,
shit.
this is a
like,
grind.
Yeah, I'm competing against Salesforce.
Yeah.
I'm competing against Microsoft.
Massive companies.
People who have been at this for a long time, way more money than you.
Yeah.
Bigger teams, everything. And like, you know, we're still up against it today.
Yeah. Well, what has gotten you through that like discouragement when you do encounter that, right? Like when you're competing against big money, you're competing against these companies, like what has kept you driving forward and with the confidence that you have a good solution for your clients?
Yeah, I mean, for me, a lot of it comes down to like when I go and I look at it, it's like each one of us are going to approach it a different way, right? Like, you know, there's 31 flavors at Baskin Robbins. People don't want, you know, one flavor, or else everybody would go there and get that flavor.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, we have clients that are constantly giving us positive feedback on it. We have clients that give us, you know, the negative feedback too, which actually like I look for more because that's how we grow from it.
You can learn a lot from that.
Absolutely. But for me, it's like I never think about quitting because like we like what we do. Like it's a fun game that we're playing.
Yeah.
And I know that success isn't a straight line.
Yeah.
It's like there's many times that we'll take 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, and we're like, man, are we ever going to figure this thing out?
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, you're like leaping, you know, and it's like, wow, like if I would have quit at this hard moment, I would never be here.
Yeah.
And I'd never be here.
Yep.
And as you go and you kind of collect those experiences along the way, you know, quitting isn't even like something that we think about anymore.
Yeah.
Like it's literally like in the early days, I was like, man, are we ever going to figure this out?
Yeah.
Now it's like I've been at like that fork so many times and we figured it out that like I have enough references to us figuring it out that I literally just know that like
you have the confidence that this is going to happen.
Yeah, I just put my head down.
Doesn't really
and
matter what the problem is. There's a solution out there. And we will find it.
And I'm confident that we will navigate it more effectively than the majority.
Yeah.
You know, because just like the way that our team approaches it, the way that we like have built a culture at our company of our team members all believing in what we're doing and understanding the impact that it makes. You know, and solar specifically was one of that driving forces. Like, you know, I have kids. I care a lot about the future and like having a sustainable future. You know, obviously roofing, construction management, you know, that is not necessarily as tied to like green sustainability and things like that. But, you know, I looked at solar and I know the importance of that industry. And, you know, all of it's extremely important, right? Like most of these things are making people's home better. And people's home is literally like everything. You know?
It's really cool just hearing you talk about like the journey and everything because it's all the same. Like every business owner here has gone through the same struggles. They have to solve these problems. And we all encounter that time where we're like, okay, Like, is this it? Am I going to give up, or am I going to push through this? Like, even starting door knocking reps, like brand new to the industry, it's
hard.
like you're going to want to quit. Like without a doubt, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And just having that like mindset of like you have now, I can look back and I can see all the problems that we have solved. I know I'm going to solve the next one too. Like, quitting's not even on the radar anymore, but you had to develop that. Like, you had to push through
that.
Get
That mental toughness to it. And then also recognizing certain things. Like, a big one for me was like, when I realized that like the majority of everything in your life is your interpretation.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's like, there's facts. Like, facts are, you and I are sitting here at this table communicating, but the interpretation is how you are receiving what I'm saying, or how I'm receiving what you're saying.
100%.
It's like, so some people go to a door, they knock on a door, somebody says no, and they hear like, oh, you're not worth it, you're dumb, never do this again. And then other people are like, oh, that's not the right person for me. Let me go knock the next door and find the right person for me.
Right.
So if that's all made up anyway, make up some empowering interpretations that work for you.
I love that.
And just play with it, man. Have fun. Like, make it a game.
Yeah.
If you make it a game, like, you're going to have days that you're on, you're going to have days that you're off. But figure out state management. Figure out triggers that can put you back into a positive state quickly, so that you don't go down this spiral of like, oh, I've had a bad hour, so now I'm going to have a bad day.
I've had Might as well go home now.
Right. And I think that the more you can do that, like, you'll develop your routines. I think routines are probably one of the most powerful things that you can do. When you can develop a efficient routine and just surrender to it, and you don't even have to think, right? Like, we're operating out of subconscious. Like, I know 5 o'clock in the morning, like, I'm in my garage working out. By 6 o'clock, I'm at my computer. I'm like hitting it, talking to the team. And it's like, I don't have to think about what I'm going to do every single day.
There's no decision fatigue that happens in that, because it's basically running an automation up to that point. And then you have the bandwidth when you do encounter the problems to solve the problems, because you didn't have to decide, okay, am I going to work out today? What's this going to look like? It's like
I don't even think about it. It's out of bed, out the door. This is what we're doing, whatever it is. It's like, it's fun because like I've made it a game. And sometimes I'll leave little clues out for myself, right? Like, if I'm going to go sit in the sun, I'm going to leave the little 2 towels in my water sitting on the table. So that like I don't have to think about it. It's my clue. Oh, here, now this is next.
This is the next step. Now I'm doing that. I love that. I think those are like little nuggets that a lot of people can take and apply into their lives to really have that level of success, and because it's everywhere. It's not just in like running a tech thing or whatever. It's like in your own personal life, you implement those systems, you implement those routines, like you will find more bandwidth, more ability to encounter everything else. Like, you're going to have more success overall because you're not worried about all these little tiny things and making a decision every moment of what's next.
Right.
And have your even emotional state in this like constant state of vigilance, looking around to see what's coming. Like, now I'm doing this, now I'm doing this, now I'm doing this. Like,
and face your demons, man. And it's like, we all have them. We all, we're conditioned and domesticated as we were being raised and, growing up. And it's like, if you don't go back and like fix those things now that you're a grown up, like, they're going to constantly haunt you. And I think personal development and, investing in like self-study, understanding yourself, figuring out ways that you can improve yourself each year, each day. That's really, really important.
I love
and it's
that.
like,
read the books.
Go
to
the
the
books,
trainings.
Listen to the YouTubes. It's all free. I mean, it's literally like on YouTube, you can listen to it for free. You can go get a $20 book and you'll probably learn more from a few of those than you'll learn in 4 years of school.
I love it. And I agree. It's so much information is out there now that there's no excuse. Like, the only excuse anybody could ever have to not learn these things and like, develop yourself is sheer laziness, right? Like, I don't value it enough to take my time to do it, because there's no cost barrier anymore. We've got, so much access to information now that if we're not out there finding the good things and getting our mindsets right, like, it has to be laziness. I can't understand why else they wouldn't choose that, right?
And even that, right? Like, one of the things that somebody pointed out to me is like willpower versus why power.
Okay.
Right? So it's like willpower. It's like, oh, I'm going to go make $100,000 this year. I'm going to make $1 million this year. It's like, that's only going to go so far. And you could push really hard, but when things get really hard, it's easy to bail out on something that is a logical thing. When you have why power, it's like, I got kids. I got colleges to pay for. I had my wife's student loans to pay off. I got all my team members that depend on our decision making.
Yeah.
It's like, I will go
Figuring
way
out your
harder
why.
for that every single day than I will ever go for like, man, I need to drive a fancy car or take another trip.
Yeah. You're right.
It's like, dude.
The why will be the thing that sustains you during those toughest times versus like, you know what? I actually don't care about that trip that much. Like, would have been nice.
Next year. Next year. But it's
if you're
intrinsic motivation that's really big. And then also self-identity, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's an amazing book. It's not very popular, but it's called Psycho-Cybernetics.
Okay.
And written by Maxwell is the last name.
Yeah.
But the whole book is literally about like how you perceive yourself and how that translates to how you show up in the world.
Yeah.
And most people's self-identity, while on the surface tends to be flashy and all these things, you know, inside they don't necessarily feel exactly like what
they don't even believe it themselves, right? Like it's like a mask. It's like it's what they want to portray versus what's actually coming from inside. Yeah. So doing the work to then actually become that's a whole nother level. Yeah.
I expect to do the things that I envision in my mind, right?
Yeah.
Like when I'm showing up, I'm like, oh, this is a great idea. We should build this.
Yeah.
I expect that we're going to be successful in the outcome of that just because of like the way that, you know, we've done it in the past.
Yeah.
And I think collect those little references that help you build that momentum so that you start to believe in yourself. And then also like, you know, working on it daily.
Yeah.
Like I used to go in the sauna in the morning and I would do a practice that I would sit there and like repeat mantras and incantations. I'd be like, I am, and I'd go through the alphabet. I am alive, I'm awoken, I am able, I'm like all these things. And I would just literally go through the alphabet.
Yeah.
And like, it sounds silly, but like, if you say this stuff enough, you'll start to believe it, and then you'll start 100%. To do it. And then that becomes who you are.
It's real. And anyone who's like listening who thinks that that's silly, I challenge you to do it. Try it for 30 days and see what happens. Like you really will create that reality by repeatedly doing it, because then it becomes your behavior, then it becomes who you are, then it becomes the results follow who you are and what you do constantly, right? Yeah. So I love that. Well, Josh, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I love like all of the insights and nuggets that you've given. Anybody who actually listens that and applies that to their lives, like they will find success in their own little areas. And then plus, you know, having the exposure for Sunbase, hearing about what you guys do, I hope that you can look at that and see the problems in your own businesses that Sunbase can solve for you and give you guys a call and see if it's a good fit.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I'd encourage them to reach out, see if we're a good fit.
Yep.
You know, maybe it is. Maybe there's something else that's better in that regard, but you know, you don't know what you don't explore.
Yep.
And we're definitely happy to help you explore it and see if it's something that would work for you.
I love that. Well, enjoy the rest of your show here, and thanks for taking the time to come talk to us.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, man.